Being a father is an important role in any family dynamic. Despite my relationship with my dad growing up, I never had the luxury of being under the same roof, the same household as him, and it impacted me. And to this day, as I developed and my ideology has molded in the area of fatherhood, I ask myself today, do I want kids? Or if I do want kids, how would that even look like? Because I didn't physically have that example face to face. I want to talk about that today. My name is Marcel and this is my fatherhood video. Once again, welcome back. If this is your first time ever stopping on my channel, my name is Marcel, one half of the dynamic duo of Jamila and Marcel, and I bring that point up to say not only welcome, and if you're new to the channel, if you enjoy this conversation, not only make sure that you like this video, subscribe, and definitely comment, talk to your boy, so we can have a decent and beneficial conversation for anyone who might be related or might be able to relate to this topic. But I brought up Jamila, my wife, because she had a topic that inspired me to do this YouTube video, which was about motherhood. I'm gonna go ahead and link that up in the top right hand corner for you all. So if you want to watch that video after this, during this video, however you want to do it, make sure you check it out, because ultimately what Jamila and I can do with our motherhood and fatherhood video is put it together as we grow closer and closer potentially to having children. And before I jump into my fatherhood video, I do want to make a disclaimer as well. This video here is not about bashing my dad. I had an amazing relationship with my dad as I was a child growing up, so I don't want anyone to misconceive or misinterpret what I'm saying here, right? This is not a video bashing him, but this is just strictly my experience, my feelings, and I want to talk about it. And that brings me into my first topic, my first segment of this body, this frame of work that I'm going to be discussing today, which is my childhood. I want to begin taking you all back into the early 90s, into my childhood. My childhood, I grew up maybe a couple years out of New York. My mom moved us from Brooklyn and she moved us to Clifton, New Jersey. And while I was living in New Jersey, which is the same state that my dad lived in, I vividly recall being able every single day, 7 days out the week, very rare occasion if I did not, but I was able to see my dad every single day after school, daycare, whatever school I was in. I can't remember, I was so young, but I remember seeing my dad every day. He'll knock on the door, I know it's him, he'll pick me up, we'll go get something to eat, pizza, Wendy's, you know, junk food, things that I always asked for. He always gave it to me, he always looked out for me. And I really looked forward to that moment that he came, you know, by every single day, because I love playing with my dad, right? My dad was the playful one between my mom and my dad. My mom was still playful, but more playful with my dad. You know, get to play rough, we get to fight, get to throw each other around. Those type of things as a young boy, I really looked forward to every single day that my dad came by. And my relationship with him grew from there. I love my dad. We got to play hide and go seek in the house. We got to wrestle. We got to go shoot some ball. He'll pick me up. We may go to the beach. Like those type of things, like to this day, are still rock solid core memories in my mind. But to kind of fast forward and not get too deep into, you know, that part of my story today with fatherhood, is my dynamic with my dad began to change as my mom and I, and then eventually my younger brother was born, and we started to move. So around 1998, I believe it was 1998, my mom moved us to Delaware. And Delaware, I can't really remember the distance between the two. I think it's maybe like a 2 to 3 hour drive between New Jersey and Delaware. And of course, when you have distance increasing, that means that your frequency of seeing my dad in this case is going to start becoming more and more limited. So it became a every day to once every 2 weeks. I remember that. It was once every 2 weeks. My dad will come pick me up with his Toyota Camry outside of my elementary school, and I would jump in the car with him. And even as I was living in Delaware, I started feeling different, right? It's like my relationship with him started to decline in a way, because in my opinion now, it's like I didn't have the luxury of seeing you every single day, to where now the majority of our conversation is no longer face to face, but it's on the phone. And he'll come see me Friday, we'll pick me up, we'll go to some like a Discovery Zone type place, which was like a, in my opinion, much higher version of like Chuck E. Cheese. And we'll go get pizza. The same thing, maybe go to the movies, like we'll spend time. But then it's like, all right, he'll drop me off. He goes back to Jersey. 2 weeks go by, I get to see him again. And now as I'm getting older and our frequency of seeing each other is declining, it made me upset at times, to where I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like during the time that I was growing up and I started to develop my own, I guess, emotions, I think I started feeling more irritable at times because I wasn't able to see him as frequent as I wanted to. And that brings me to the next part, because the reason why I bring up the emotion part is because Jamila and I, of course, we've had this conversation, but when we moved down from Delaware, we moved all the way down south to Georgia. So it went from, you know, New York to New Jersey, to New Jersey, New Jersey, to New Jersey to Delaware. But now it's like, we're like very far apart from each other. So that once a day went from once a day to now once every 2 weeks, to now I saw my dad maybe like once to maybe 3 times a year when we moved down to Georgia. And it really frustrated me. And I think during that time when I was growing up, that's the very first time, to reference back in the time Jamila and I talked about this, was when I first started developing anger, frustration, like the negative emotions. And I remember Jamila asking me one time, like, do I recall the first time ever being angry? And I said, I think it was when I moved down here to Georgia. And my mom and I's relationship started getting a little staticky. I remember arguing and fighting with her a lot during that time when I was in late middle school, definitely high school, especially heavily in my senior year as I was preparing to go off to college. My mom and I bumped heads a lot, but it's like I wish my dad was there, because maybe he could have diffused the situation. Maybe he could have personally been there to help mediate, instead of it just being mom versus son. It could have been dad, mom versus son, or maybe like dad could have stepped in between at times, to where it wouldn't have been like a full onslaught war of, you know, your perspective versus my perspective. And I feel like at that time, I started developing in a way that now I look back on that I don't like, because as a male, I wasn't taught how to constructively channel my emotion, primarily my anger. I just kind of reflected what I saw, which was yelling, which was, you know, negative ways of expressing negative emotions. And I just wish that in that moment that I had that example to say, you know, your mom might be saying this, but she might be right, but just expressing it in a bad way. You know, you don't have to respond to everything. And I had other male figures in my life that would tell me that, but I just feel like from my dad, it might have stuck a little bit more. So I started emotionally struggling during this time, because I didn't feel like I had support. I didn't feel like I had someone who I could relate to or easily go to and say, hey, Dad, what can I do in this particular moment? Of course, we would talk about it on the phone, but once that phone hangs up, that's it. I'm back in the fire. And maybe what you told me works, maybe what you told me doesn't work. And it just presented a lot of struggle. So now, as I develop into a man, ultimately, I meet Jamila, and, you know, we date, we get married, and there are times that as I'm with Jamila, I start to see myself as a man that's ultimately developing as the man of the house figure, so to speak, to like be the leader, be the provider of the house, but I didn't know how to. I'm still learning to this day. And there's been plenty of times where Jamila and I would have friction with each other, and I always remember how many times, or the times, that Jamila would say, honey, or Marcel, as my man or as a man of the house, I don't need this from you, or this is what I need from you. There are so many things that Jamila has had to teach me of what it takes, so to speak, to be a man. And even that phrase, or what it takes to be a man, can be slightly misplaced and misinterpreted, but what it meant to be a man for her. Meaning that some of my areas, such as negatively displaying my anger, those are things that I had to work on when her and I got together. Being able to properly express myself, being able to emotionally communicate myself, all of these things on top of this, these are the areas of support, of being able to be a provider. These are the things, the lessons. Like, even, I know a lot of times you all kind of give me credit on the Jamila Marcel channel, but there were times where Jamila and I would get into it because when we first started dating, like, I wouldn't be rushing to go get the door for her. I'd be like, you got there first, just grab the door. Or we go to the gas station and she's had to tell me, like, go pump my gas. These are things that may sound common, you know, it may be far-fetched, that these are things that I just wasn't always doing. But there are many times that Jamila had to tell me, hey, this is what I need from you. So I always have a moment in time where I give thanks to God, always. But when it comes to Jamila, because Jamila has allowed me to develop so much as a person, to where what you all see on camera today is a reflection of, honestly, and it's not to take away from my mom, but what Jamila has taught me in the area of, this is what I need from you as my man, as my boyfriend, my fiance, my husband. These are things I need from you. And I want to pause really quick because I don't want to take away from all of the single mothers. This is not what this video is about, because my mom did an outstanding job today. Coincidentally, today is Mother's Day, and I wrote my mom a message today. I won't share the full details of the message, but I said thank you. And I never said thank you for this, but now as I'm getting older, it's like I'm beginning to fully realize the struggle of being a single parent, especially a single mother, where I had to say thank you for your resilience. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for your innovativeness of being able to, not only me, but my brother, to raise us. And even through the times where you were struggling, you still made it seem easy because of that resiliency and that persistence that you always and constantly had on display. So I want to just say shout out, and again, happy, I know this video is going to come out after Mother's Day, but happy Mother's Day, especially to all of the single mothers that's out there doing it by themselves. So again, as a disclaimer, this is not a crap on my dad or my mom. It's just my experience through my eyes. And Jamila, the love of my life, had to teach me things that I felt that I should have seen either verbally taught to me or seen physically exemplified in the household that I was living in. And before I dive into my perspective on fatherhood, is I kind of take a look down on what do I want to do as I approach, you know, not an age, but a decision in time of, do I want to be a dad or not, is I don't ever look back on time and say, you know, I wish my dad was in the house, because like on some Marvel multiverse type, change of reality type thing, I feel like if I did live in the house with my dad, then I'll probably still be up north in Jersey somewhere. And that may have caused me and Jamila never meet. And Jamila honestly is more like, it's what I know. And I don't want to trade her for anything in the world. So I don't want to say those type of things, because I still gracefully, but will of God, to still be able to learn these lessons, still learn today. But that brings me now to my next point of the decision of, do I want to have children? And the answer to that is real simple. I do. But as I attempt and strive to be a father, I want to make sure that, and I'm going to read my notes here, so if I take my eyes off the screen for a moment, please forgive me, but I want to make sure that I hit every single point that I wrote in my notes right here. I want to make sure that I'm not only a provider, but I want to be a father who can display the skill of being empathetic, right? I want to be supportive. I want to be able to provide structure. I want to be a father that's going to love you, but I'm going to give you tough love when it's necessary. And I'm going to give you soft love when it's necessary too. And ultimately, my last bullet point that I have on here is I want to be present. I want to be present. See, a lot of times, even when I reflect back on the last comment I just made about, wishing I grew up in the father, present house, is that I don't want to again have the misconception that there are people that grew up in a two-parent household and the environment was toxic and they just say, I'd rather that mom and dad maybe divorced and we could have just been settled between things like that. But I want to be present in a household where the environment is not toxic, but the environment is well balanced and is well respected. And I just want to be all of those things that I listed. But there's times that I'm concerned, I'm worried, because I didn't have that, again, face-to-face example to say, hey, this is how the model growing, developing a household. I don't know what that looks like. But it's things that I've prayed about. It's something that I prayed about. And it's something that I know that God is going to guide my footsteps. And I know that I'm going to be a great dad. I know Jamil's going to be a great mom. And I pray that whenever we decide to start having kids, that we're healthy through the process of, delivery, pregnancy, child is healthy, children are happy and healthy when they are born. And we're able to provide a suitable and healthy lifestyle for our children or child. I know Jamila gonna be like children, but I don't want to venture off too much because, again, I just don't, and nobody ever knows for the first time becoming a parent, but it's like, I just don't know, right? I don't know what it is to be a father. I know my dad always sent down money. If I needed something, he would send it in a blink of an eye. He always gave us presents, but it's like, my dad was the present giver, the money giver, but we didn't really have, not to say that we didn't have, but we didn't have that, what I feel like it would have been like a father to son talk. Like, hey, son, let's sit down and talk. I want that. I never grew up like, I don't want to say without, like, with the dad because he was there, but it's like that wisdom that I feel like boys receive from men. I miss that because I didn't really get that from my dad. I didn't grow up with a grandfather on either side. So it's like all I have is nothing in that area, right? So I just want to be that person of wisdom to, whether if it's a son or if it's a daughter, I want to be able to be the anchor of the family that provides stability. I want to be that provider to where there's no need or a want in the household. I want to be that provider to where I can say, Jamila, baby, if you're going to start having kids, you're not working, I got enough money to provide for everyone in the house. You hungry? I got you. There's never any sign of struggle, or if there is a sign of struggle, through my resiliency, I'm able to continue providing. I want to be empathetic to where I sit down and listen to you as my child and as your parent to say, you know what, I care about what you want to say. Let me hear what you're going to say. Let me respond, to this stuff that Jamila taught me. I'm gonna hear how you feel. I'm gonna respond to how you feel, and then I'll give you my comment, my response back. And from there, we can grow and we can be receptive of now that tough love. If, hey, you know what, you might be wrong. I want you to reevaluate this so you can still reach your goal, but you might be wrong or you might be right in this situation. I want to be able to display sympathy, right? I want to be able to, hey, let me show you how to do this because this is what I learned through experience. Things that I wish that I would have known what to do. I never cut a single blade of grass until we moved here in this house, because growing up, mom being super protective, knowing I got asthma and that asthma attack, I cut grass here all the time now. But it's like my mom never allowed me to. I know she see this part, she was like, I say you could cut the grass, but I never cut grass. I've never changed the tire. I had to learn how to change a battery in the car once Jamila's battery in her car kept messing up. And it's like I've literally taught myself through the encouragement of my wife Jamila to be able to do the manly duties. Once we got together and ultimately got married and moved into a house to where now, like, taking care of the house is a priority because it's yours. But I was never taught those things, and I thank God that I was able to learn these things, and there's so many more things that I'm still willing and wanting to learn. But again, I just want to be able to provide structure. So I don't want to keep rambling with this video. Maybe we can do a part 2 to where I can respond to you all's comments. Jamila did that as well, to where it could be like a feedback and somewhat of a level of discord between us. But it's like, after I express my feelings about being a dad, it's like I don't know what's next. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think. I don't know what reality is gonna look like. It's an unknown factor. It's not an unknown factor that I'm afraid of, but there are times that I'm slightly worried. But it's like I want everything to be perfect before Jamila and I have kids. And I know everyone says it's never gonna be perfect. I know, but I don't know. But I wanna, again, just say I do want kids. I do appreciate the relationship that my dad and I did have as a, early father-son relationship. But if you have anything that you want to comment to, please do so. The more comments, the more things I can respond to in like a fatherhood part 2 video. But I do appreciate you all giving me a platform, clicking on this video and being able to talk about it. And if you have a way that you could relate to my issue, it doesn't have to be man to man. It could be, if you grew up in a single parent household and you just didn't have that example, or if you're just worried about being a mom or being a dad, just give me some insight and I'll make sure to respond to you in the comments. And we'll do like a part 2 as well when I respond to you all's comments. But that's pretty much it. Again, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure that you comment. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe. If you're old to this daggone YouTube channel and you watch all my stuff and you still ain't subscribe to your boy, because again, I'm trying to be a provider and I gotta get this channel monetized, and I gotta get to 1,000 subscribers to do that. And at the time of recording this video, I'm at like 764. So shout out to all of my subscribers right now, and I'll catch y'all on the next time. Make sure you watch Jamila's motherhood video, and we'll talk about some more next time. Peace.